Hey y'all, today we're going to do an Okuma Cedros CJ55S. Let's start with the spool. Show you how to take this apart, service it, and put it back together. Alright, so we'll pull this off. We're going to pull that little rubber seal off and open that up. The way to get this out is simply stick your small flathead screwdriver inside, push in and up, and out they come. Alright, so let's do the top part. There's a couple pieces under here. I think I'll pull them out just so you guys can see them, but I don't think they're anything spectacular. I could be wrong. It's just one bushing under there. Let's clean it off and put some grease inside there so we don't get this kind of stuck inside there. Just gonna stick that back in. Wipe off that grease that I got on the inside there. Now let's go ahead and put some drag washers in there. The oil I'm going to use is a thicker kind, the Abu Garcia real oil. Just drops around it. You don't need to inundate the entire thing. It'll all kind of work its way inside there. You know, when you compress the reel, it'll just kind of just open up. First thing I'm going to put on after that is one of these keyed washers. Another carbon fiber washer, felt washer. Then you go with the metal air washer. And then your final carbon fiber washer. I keep saying carbon fiber, I don't know why I say that. Felt washer. Then this final piece. Now we can stick the seal back on. Just take one of the ends, stick it down inside the hole it should be going into, and then work the rest around. When you're done with that, just make sure it's in all the holes that it should be. This one is not, so we're going to lift that up. Make sure it's in the right groove. Alright, so to put this on, for the bottom part, it's a little more involved, but not crazy. We're going to undo that clip right there. Same kind of deal for the top part. Always keep your finger over it so it doesn't go flying somewhere. I'm going to pop this out. We're definitely going to replace that stuff. Ooh, that is nasty. This comes out also, but I got to clean it off so you can show you what you're looking for. So you're looking for a clip that's inside here. Clip goes around one side, on one other side it's kind of indented into this housing here. You're just gonna kind of twist it as you push away from it to kind of get it up. Kind of like that. And if you see what I'm talking about here, let me show it to you. There's a little gap right there. Hopefully you guys can see that. Now this click gear comes off. And then I think you have something else under here. So let's check. I don't remember if you do. Yeah, we got another bushing under there. Clean this stuff up. I'm going to clean this stuff off. I'm not going to remove the clicker part, but I'm going to clean that stuff off as well. and I'll come back to you to put this stuff in. I'm gonna have to take this off to get this really cleaned off really well. So just gonna undo those 2 screws there. So I'm gonna show you this before I finish cleaning up the rest of it. It just comes up like this. Then we clean everything off. Okay, so for this I used the 4/0 steel wool to get that cleaned off. I'm just gonna flip it. So this will be the bottom part facing the drag. This is a pretty flat surface, so we can flip it either way. All right, so let's get our new drag washer. That's already greased, so we don't need to do anything with it. I'm gonna put in the the bushing first. Add some grease inside there. Just drop it in. A little bit around there too, just in case. Now we can stick on our click gear and then our retainer. Push it all the way down to make sure it's all the way seated properly. Then we're gonna take this, just open it up, wrap it around it. Made it sound pretty easy, but it's not that easy. I'm gonna take one side, hold it over it, and then pull it over. Kind of like that. Just make sure it gets seated properly when you put it in. And don't stretch it too much. Alright, so that one side is set, this other side is not. We're gonna work that point over to right there so that it's set in place. Kind of like that. Alright, so for the clicker, we're just gonna add a little bit of oil to right here. Kind of work that in a little bit. So in this clicker, there's 2 tabs. One there, one there. Those 2 tabs are gonna go in these 2 larger holes, and the 2 other openings will go over these 2 holes where the screws are gonna go. Doesn't matter where you put it, just as long as you get it in the right spot. Now we're just gonna screw it in. Alright, that's that. Now we're gonna take our drag washer, drop that in. Let's get this cleaned off, make sure it's all nice and clean, which it is. Drop that in, just like that. Then we're gonna take this, we're gonna drop that in straight down, looking just like that. Let's make sure it's set properly. I hear a clicker, so that means it's working, which is always a good thing. One end, same thing as the first on the top side. One end in, and then just kind of work the rest in. Make sure it's in where it should be, and it looks like it is. All right, let's go ahead and remove the handle, but we're gonna work on the rotor next. You said I unscrewed the handle to get this part out. Simply need to unscrew it this way. And then just get that all the way off. And just push it through. So this is a little tough, but it's supposed to go right through. So we're going to pound it like that. I don't think there was a washer on here anywhere, so okay, so let's get back to this. I'm going to pull this straight up. It's kind of like that. Now we have a screw and a set screw there. We're going to do the set screw so we can get access to that screw. And I think it is counterclockwise to remove it. I was wrong. It is clockwise to remove it. So you're turning to the right to loosen it. The one good thing on this reel was the the assembly. So I'll show you how to break that down. Just put it back together. We're not gonna do a whole lot more to it than that. Alright, so we're gonna do a couple screws, 1, 2, and 3 here. Keep these separate. I'm not sure if they're the same size or not. Looks like they are. Pull that off. Take your time with this one. That's where the spring is. You don't want to shoot it on you somewhere. There. Lift this up. Then you have a trip arm right there. That comes apart, obviously. I think that's it for this. And then for the bail wire. We're going to do this screw here, and I'll try to keep it intact so you guys can see what's under there. I think we're all the way off already. Good. So you have a washer under there. You have a bearing that's on this side, then you have a bushing that's on the other side. And this is equidistant in terms of the gaps, but there's a slope on one side. So the slope that's facing, if it's facing like this, that'll be facing the bail wire. I'm sorry, the bail arm. And the slope going down will be facing the bail wire. Hope that made sense. It actually made sense in my head, so I hope it made sense to you as well. Alright, so I'll clean this stuff up, come back to you and show you how to put it back together. A little addition before we go any further. There is a washer there. I just can't get it out. So we're going to leave it intact. I'll come back to you when everything's ready. Okay, so I went and changed out the bearing. So I'm just going to oil that. Work that in a little bit. Then we're going to add some grease around it. I left that screw intact with the washer there as well. So we're going to grease inside here. I'm going to grease inside here. That should be good. You don't too much on there. I'll just drop that in like this. This like this. Then we're just going to stick it on. And then cover it up. Now we're not going to go all the way down yet, but we are going to get pretty close to it. I want some plane it just in case I need a room when I put this back together. So next we have the trip arm, which we're going to add some grease to as well. And you'll see there's one slightly longer side than the other. That one's facing down. Add some grease inside here where the trip arm rides. Some here as well where that spring is going to ride for the bail spring is going to ride. And a little bit over here as well. That should suffice. Drop this in. Remember the longer side is going down. Pull it all the way to the top. We're going to take this. You notice there's a little tab on the back there. That tab is going to be riding right there in that little channel you see. Drop it in. And then we're going to line that up. Kind of push down on it so it gets kind of set. But we don't expect it to be completely set yet. Keep my finger over this just in case. There's a lot of load on that spring right there. Let's add some grease to the top. Right there where that's going to go. And right there as well. I'm going to kind of ride that over it. until we find it. And this is not always the easiest thing to do, so trying to get that out of the way. So you gotta find it and then set it in. I really don't want it coming up. I'd rather stay down. So if you have an easier time doing it when it's up, that's fine. I prefer for this one to stay down versus having it come up. But whatever works for you, and if that works for me better this time, then that's what I'll do as well. All right, there we go. I'm gonna hold on to everything here just like this. I'm gonna screw this in, and then I'll get the bail cover on. Among the reasons to keep those things separate is that sometimes the grooves that are created inside there, when you screw these things in, it's only for one of those screws. Can't tell you why that is, just the way it is. And it doesn't always happen. But you saw there, that was the right side. This side was for this side, and that one would have been a lot easier than that one did. You have enough stuff on here. Let's add some grease on that point, and then close that up. Now we can tighten this down, and I'll double check the line rotor to make sure it's good. Of course, make sure that works. Then let's see what we have going on. Yeah, that looks really good. All right. Okay, so for the main housing, we're going to remove one screw here. Before I continue, I'm going to go drop this kind of down to the bottom. That comes off. You can see the gears are exposed. And to access the entire thing, we'll need to undo this cover because there's one screw hidden under there as well. So we have 4 total screws to remove this side plate. So I'm going to start with the top part here to get that off. And these are one of those crazy anti-reverse clutch thingies that I don't like. Pulling that pin, that spring off that pin just so it doesn't go shooting anywhere. And since I'm here, I'm going to put everything up. And that's what happens. Those things can just kind of fall out. Anyhow, let's keep it to the side over there. We're going to do these 4 screws to get this open. I think the bottom 3 are the same size and the top one might be different. Did I undo this one already? Okay. The top one's a little bit different. It has a flat head. Kind of got to see it to understand what I'm talking about there. So I'll just let you figure it out. But the top one is different than the other 3. Now we can just kind of pull this up, if we're lucky. And now we can undo that screw. I'm going to undo that screw so I can pull that shaft out. Just kind of pull it up like that. Now we can pop this thing out. And we can pull out this main gear. And that screw right there. Notice under there's a bushing. Probably gonna remove that so we can reuse it because I think I want to change this out as well. I think that's it except for this part. And the lever, all right, I don't want to do the lever. I really don't. Lever and I don't really get along too well. And if it's working, I leave it alone. If it's not working, then whatever. But I would take this out just in case, and I'll show you how to put it back in. That's just the engagement for the lever. I needed my tool. Get that out of there. All right, so this is gonna fall apart on you. Don't worry about that part. It's gonna happen. Take that off. That off. You have a washer under here. Washer on top. A cup, and then a bearing. And that's it. There's nothing under here, just the cover. Did we get these off? No, we don't. All right, cool. All right, so I'm gonna clean this stuff up, come back to you. There's obviously quite a few things on here I'm gonna be replacing. This didn't feel right, so I'm gonna change this and this, as well as this, since that goes with that. And I'm pretty sure I'm changing this out as well because there were some issues with it that it just wasn't working properly. So, and this. There's a lot of stuff going on. All right, I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, so the one thing I didn't show you was this little bushing that was inside here. We're going to replace that, and I'll tell you why we do that. There is a... Well, before I even do that, let me tell you about this part. There's a little notch at the top of it. When you look at yours, you'll see a notch that is only part way up. That top part will be facing down to fit inside a little groove that's inside there. And the reason I changed these out is because, I don't remember if it was like the Pen Fierce or Battle or one of those. There's a stark difference between replacing the pinion and the main gear and leaving the old bushing inside and changing it out. There really is. So it's a couple $1 piece maybe. So better off changing it out than to leave it in there and making your wheel feel kind of junky. All right, so we're changing a whole bunch of stuff out, as you can see. So I did change out obviously the two main gear bearings. I tried to not replace this, and I think I got it to the point where it feels pretty good, so I'm going to leave it the way it is and not replace that. You get to watch me open a bunch of stuff here. Move that out of the way. And that out of the way. This bushing is for the crosswind gear or the transmission gear. So we're going to replace that as well. The one thing you don't really need to replace would be this. This just kind of sits on the bottom. It does get wear as well, but not to the extent where you can feel it. Or at least not right away. All right, I think that's all we need. Gonna grease this up really quickly, then show you how to put them in. Maybe I should just show you this before I even do it, but it's too late. It's not too late. I'll show you in a sec. All right, so on the bottom here, and you won't be able to see it, you'll have to see it on your own. There's a little red dot there. The top here, there's a little point. Could be a red dot as well, doesn't matter. As long as there's something there, you need to match those two things up when you put these together. Where's our block? So you saw what I did there was I just kind of coated all the surface area of all these things, and I also added a decent amount of grease inside this middle part right here. I think that's all we're going to do for this stuff, and then we can get to that. Let's go ahead and oil these two bearings that we have to replace those other ones. Let that sit for a little bit. Now we're going to grease some spots inside here. I'm even going to grease the top part right now as well. And my tendency probably would be to forget that bushing there that goes right here. So it's probably one of the first things I'll put in. A little bit of grease inside there. Nothing crazy. If I put too much, can affect the reel. Same for this side. That should be good. I think that's all we're gonna do for that stuff right now, at least. Okay, so let's put this stuff together. The way this sits is there's a little ridge side. That ridge side faces down. We're just gonna push it in. That's it. This bushing can go either from the top or from the bottom. Just go straight through. Then you have that washer that sits on top of it like that. I'm looking for my screws. What I'm looking for. I'm gonna drop this in. I think this is my screw right here. Then secure that with this screw. Now before I keep on going any further, I want to get that bearing inside. So I'm going to work this in and then drop that inside there. And I can leave that kind of for last, this little clip here for that part, so we're good there. Okay, so let's see if I can do that or not. Yeah, I can. So like I said, you're looking for that red dot. They have it where you can see it through here. It is really hard to see it that way. So I just kind of eyeball it, then look underneath and see if it's lined up or not. And that's not lined up. And that looks like it's lined up to me right there. So that's good. All right, where were we? The block's gonna sit just like this. Looking just like that. And I did forget it. See, I tell you, I keep forgetting this thing. Aye. Let's see if we can get this in without moving anything around. Might not be able to. Alright, I'm gonna pull this out. And stick it in. You gotta make sure that top part is the last part going in. That's all you gotta remember in this one. And then make sure it seats all the way down. And that looks and feels good. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, let's take this back in. Yeah, I think we got it in the first try. Good. Now I'm gonna put this stuff together, but then I'm obviously gonna check to see how it feels afterwards, because it may not feel right. May need to add some shims there or something. So It's not like it's always done every time you put it together and then put it back together. So I'm just gonna drop it on there. Leave it like that. I don't necessarily want to put this in yet. I'd rather wait until I do the top part. And that's because that kind of gets in the way. Okay, let's go ahead and this is the semi-trickiest part. Before I do that, we're going to stick this back in. You want to keep that flat. It doesn't really go anywhere, but I'm just a little paranoia about this thing where it's going to shoot out on me or something. Keep it flat, then push it in. I'm going to put my finger over just to make sure it's working properly. There we go. I'm going to leave it probably in that direction, I think. I don't remember. Squeeze the pinion up. I like to grease the entire thing, especially right there with the threads. I kind of hate things getting stuck, so try to avoid that. Stick our washer on there. This little part. Needs to go the other way. Like that. There we go. Don't fall out. Don't fall out. Don't fall out. Don't fall out. I want to keep that inside as well. I want to try to keep everything intact because that stops it from kind of moving around. But if that falls out, that's not the worst case scenario. Alright, where's our screw? Our spring. We're going to take it, we're going to go from the top part. Stick it in through the hole that's in there. Kind of like that. I'm going to double check to make sure it's sitting properly. That looks good. I'm going to take this, stick that inside there. I did change out the bearing on this. I just kind of felt like I had to. Makes no sense to do all this stuff and not have a good pinion gear as well, or optimal pinion gear. Alright, so take it, hold it sideways. Even when you do it this way, there's no guarantees. Don't worry about that spring coming off. I'm going to keep it upside down, kind of like that. Put this on top of it. Yeah, there's no guarantees. This thing is just kind of rough. Put that over like that. This has to be obviously in between that gap right there. But that's looking pretty good so far. And then we'll do the spring afterwards. Just want to make sure I drop this in. And I'll get it off. Notice I'm keeping it sideways so I don't have to worry about the thing coming out. I'm just trying to find the groove for it right now. And I think we just found it. So I think we're good. Alright, so let's cover it up. Let's not cover it up, I take that back. I'm going to double check one more time to make sure that this is lined up properly. It is. Let's get our shaft and put that in. And there's a shorter side, I think, and a longer side. That longer side is going to be facing up. Gently stick this stuff through. It only goes in one way, so it doesn't go in that way. Try it the other way. Stick this in. And now we can go ahead and cover this up after we put this spring back on there. This still is kind of tricky because it can go somewhere. And I'd rather get this on now than afterwards, so I'm I'm gonna hold on to right there. We got in the first try, that's good. And now I'm gonna take my pick. Just gonna help it work its way over. Just work it down, make sure it goes all the way down to the bottom. It doesn't have to be exactly the bottom, but you know, it'll be around there somewhere. All right, so now let's cover this up. And we're almost in business. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna take a quick feel on this. That feels good. Okay, let's go ahead and screw it in. I'll do the top part first so I can go ahead and secure that top so it doesn't move out of the way. This only goes on one way. I don't want to say one way, but you kind of want it where that ramp is on this side. So I'm going to stick it on just like this, kind of work it around to where we find it to sit properly. Right there. Snug is good. Don't over tighten these things. Alright, before I forget, I'm going to put these two washers on there. I actually had two. Don't ask me why. Can never tell you those things. Alright, so let's go ahead and grease that right there. That right there, and that right there. Let me do that because water gets inside that cup. Then it could just be sitting there on top of those screws. We don't want that. Also put some grease right here where that screw for the boot is going to go. And then make sure we're good. Alright, so let's do the handle and then we'll test this reel out. I'm going to brush some of the stuff off. I'm not going to undo this. And honestly, I can't remember if this moves or does not move, honestly. I don't know if it does. I don't think it does, but I could be wrong with that one. We're going to kind of clean that out. And I'm going to grab my divot tool. So I can open this up. You do want to be a little bit careful there because it's metal on metal. And I'm only opening it up so I can add some oil inside there. I'm not doing anything else to this. Doesn't really need it. But I can add some grease to the threads on this so that doesn't get frozen on there. Alright, we can add some grease inside here. Some all around this. Definitely some on this. Even on those threads right there. And before we close this up, we're going to add some grease inside those holes right there where this shaft is going to go through. A little bit there as well. Now we're going to stick this through. Now we got to screw this thing on. And it's going to screw on this way, that way, when you crank it with the left hand. And now we can just tighten this down. Oopsie daisy. Let's get this handle on before, I'm sorry, this rotor on before we do that. I'll add some grease inside here. That should be good. I'm going to stick this on and close it up. Well, let's go ahead and add some grease here as well. And now we can close it up. I forgot what this was. Was it righty tighty or lefty loosey? That's the same thing, isn't it? Right, so it's right to come off, left to go back on. And we don't over tighten these things, but we do snug them down. Now I want to line that up to the hole. Yep, so right there is good. Put our set screw in, and then let's finish up the handle part. Alright, so let's finish this part up here. Let me feel the back side, make sure it's not slipping either. It is. That's good right there. Let's feel how it feels. Oh my goodness, that feels good. Alright, while I put this together, guys, if you found the video useful, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, that subscribe button if you decide or choose to do so. Thumbs up I really appreciate. Subscribe is great too, but you don't have to do that part. And I think I'll see you guys next time. Alright, thanks for watching. Y'all have a good day.